You think you're just running cold, but Phil Ivey sees something else, something subtle, something dangerous, and it's costing you chips every single session. Today, you're going to find out what it is and how to fix it, because what separates Ivey from the rest isn't luck. It isn't even raw talent, it's what he sees that you don't. So if you're tired of losing, and you're ready to stop guessing, let's take a seat at Phil's table and see why your biggest leaks have nothing to do with your cards. Reason 1. You're not really present at the table. Most players think they're focused. Phil Ivey knows they're not. They stare at their cards, check their chip count, glance at the flop, but they miss everything else. Ivey doesn't. From the moment he sits down, he's studying. Not just the cards, not just the betting patterns, the entire table, every movement, every pause, every twitch. And this isn't some poker cliche about being locked in. This is work. He once talked about how early in his career he'd watch every hand like his life depended on it. Didn't matter if he was in the pot or not, he was reading people, reconstructing their thought process, learning what made them tick. That's the kind of focus most players think they have, but don't, because most players only lock in when they're involved. Phil Ivey is locked in from hand 1. You'll hear him say it himself. If you want an edge, watch what others don't. Look at the hands people show down. Notice when they tank, when they bet quickly. Pick up on the spots they're uncomfortable in. This isn't some magic sixth sense. It's repetition, it's attention, and you can build it. Next time you're at the table, test yourself. Can you recall what the button opened 2 hands ago? Can you name the guy who limped under the gun and then check-raised the flop? If not, you're leaving money on the table. Ivey's edge doesn't come from seeing into people's souls. It comes from watching when no one else is paying attention. The average player plays their hand. Ivey plays the game. That's the difference. Reason 2. You play with a fixed style. You've probably heard it 100 times. Play tight aggressive. Stick to your strategy. Don't get fancy. Phil Ivey would laugh at that. Because if you walk into a poker room with a fixed style, tight, loose, aggressive, whatever, you've already lost. Ivey doesn't play his game. He plays your game. And then he beats you at it. In his own words, he never walks into a session thinking, today I'll play tight. Orient. This is going to be an aggressive day. He adjusts on the fly. He sees who's folding too much, who's calling too light, who's tilting, and he becomes the exact type of player that exploits that. Sometimes he's opening every pot. Sometimes he's sitting back, letting others bluff into him. It depends on the table. It depends on the moment. You might call that chaotic, but it's actually the opposite. Ivey sees poker for what it is, a fluid, situational game. Every opponent is a puzzle. Every hand is a test. And no fixed style can solve all of them. That's where most players fail. They memorize a strategy, force it onto every situation, and never realize they've become easy to exploit. Meanwhile, Ivey's shifting gears mid-hand. He knows the image he's built and when to use it against you. Play tight for 2 hours, then run a massive bluff the moment your opponent assumes you won't. That's how Ivey thinks. So if your game has a label, tag, lag, balanced, rip it off. You're not playing chess. You're not solving a math equation. You're sitting in a room full of unpredictable humans, and the only style that works is the one they didn't see coming. Reason 3. You think poker is all math. The solvers told you what to do. The charts told you how to play it, and still, you lost. Phil Ivey knows why. Because poker isn't just about math. It never was. Ivey is an anti-solver. He studied them. He respects them. He even said one day he'll grind them 6 hours a day, but he hasn't yet, and he's still crushing the toughest games in the world. Why? Because Ivey's edge doesn't come from memorizing output. It comes from reading energy, from sensing discomfort, from catching the flicker of hesitation that no software can detect. He calls it intangibles, and most players don't even know what that means. They've been trained to believe poker is pure data, that every hand is a formula waiting to be solved. But ask Ivey, and he'll tell you, some things can't be solved. They can only be felt. He once called an opponent in an online game, just to hear his voice, just to get a read. That's how deeply he believes in intuition. While others obsess over balance and solver-approved frequencies, Ivey's picking up something else. Tension, posture, timing, energy. It's not guesswork, it's not superstition, it's a skill, and it's lethal. If all you study is solver outputs, you'll never see the real picture. Because poker isn't just math, it's people. And if you don't understand that, you're playing half the game. Ivey's success isn't just logic, it's instinct sharpened by experience. So yes, study your ranges, learn your bet sizing, but don't forget, the biggest edge at the table might be the thing you can't put into a spreadsheet. Reason 4, you don't reflect honestly. You lose a hand, you shake it off, you tell yourself it was just a cooler, then you do it again next session. Phil Ivey doesn't move on like that. When Ivey finishes a session, he replays hands in his mind. Not just the big ones, not just the bad beats, all of them. He breaks them down. What did my opponent bet? Why? What did they think I had? What could I have done differently? It's not an ego trip, it's a process. Because Ivey doesn't want to feel better, he wants to play better. He says it clearly. Most of his study happens away from the table, thinking, reflecting, reviewing hands until the next time the spot comes up, and he's ready. Most players skip this step. They mislabel variance as bad luck. They blame the fish. They laugh off a bad call, then repeat it a week later. That's not how greatness works. Ivey treats every mistake like a gift, an opportunity to refine his game, adjust his instincts, and prepare for battle. He even suggests writing down hands if you can't remember them. Review them, sit with them, ask, what didn't I see? That's how you get better. You don't need to memorize every GTO solution, but you do need to be honest about your leaks, and most players aren't. They protect their ego. Ivey protects his edge. Poker's not about perfection. Even Ivey says he's never played a flawless session, but if you're not learning from your flaws, you're destined to repeat them. So don't move on too quickly. Don't bury your mistakes. Study them, because that's where Phil Ivey finds his edge, and it's where you'll find yours too. Reason 5, you let ego pick your games. You want to prove you can hang. You sit in bigger games, tougher games, because you think that's what a real player does. Phil Ivey doesn't think like that. He doesn't play to prove something. He plays to win, and that's why he walks away from the wrong tables without a second thought. He once said it himself. If someone's winning, he might leave early, but if they're losing, he'll stay for 2 days straight. That's not ego, that's edge. Ivey knows that poker isn't about showing off. It's about survival. And if you're constantly playing against people better than you, it doesn't matter how much skill you have. You're still the mark. Most players don't want to admit that. They chase the action. They sit with the crushers. They convince themselves it's good experience. But Ivey sees through that. He's not trying to outplay the toughest opponents for pride. He's targeting the tables where he has the highest expectation. That's what pros do. They hunt value. They protect their bankroll. They know when to push and when to pass. And if that means saying no to a high-stakes lineup full of killers, they walk. Because the money doesn't care how brave you are, only whether you made the smart play. So ask yourself honestly, are you picking games to grow your bankroll or to feed your ego? If you're always the underdog, you're not grinding, you're bleeding. Ivey learned this lesson early. And it's one of the reasons he's lasted longer than almost anyone else. Poker isn't just about playing well, it's about choosing where to play. And the best players in the world, they never let pride cost them chips. If you've made it this far, you've already done what most won't. You've looked deeper, questioned your habits. You're not afraid to admit you've been wrong. That's how progress starts. And Phil Ivey's not the only legend trying to help you fix your leaks. Daniel Negreanu sees them too. But he doesn't just focus on strategy. He goes after something even more dangerous, tilt. The kind you don't even notice. The kind that disguises itself as discipline. So if you've ever stayed just one more orbit, if you've ever played just to get even, if you've ever convinced yourself you were calm when you were actually spiraling, you need to hear what Daniel has to say. Click the next video to find out why tilt is killing your win rate, and why recognizing it might be the only thing standing between you and a major breakthrough.